This channel supports Extra Life in its efforts to raise money for the Children's Miracle Network. For more information about how to donate and join in their efforts, go to the link displayed here. Extra Life. Play games, heal kids. What up, everybody? This is your boy Black Magus, and guess this is kind of my 2015 in review for gaming video. It's just a lot of stuff to cover, but I'm gonna try to keep this as brief as possible, so bear with me. You're gonna get at least a 10-minute video, I'm sure. Hopefully I can keep it to that and no longer than that. But so 2015 in gaming, it's been a very interesting year on all sides. I think the most interesting is the outlook on the gaming community, which will probably be the bulk of this video. But from games itself, it's been a pretty solid year, to be quite honest. You have definitely had a lot of good titles out there. A lot of people have found a lot of games that are very entertaining. You know, you had surprises like Rocket League being such a big hit. Shout outs to them, by the way. I forget the name. Psyonix. I heard that they have made like 5-10 times the amount of money that they spent on the game making it, which is great. Glad that that game's successful. Their first game, the Superpower Battle Rocket Cars, I know I butchered that title, forgive me, but it was kind of a sleeper that didn't do that well on a financial level, but it was like one of those games that had a, you know, cult following, and it's good to see that they were able to come out with the second iteration of the series and get the success that they did. So congrats to them. But you had sleepers like that. Life is Strange was a game that was surprisingly good to a lot of people. You know, one of the few non-Telltale episodic games that I think have come out recently. It ended up being a surprise. A lot of people I've heard say Dying Light was a very good game that they found themselves surprisingly enjoying, especially after the last Dead Island. I think a lot of people were soured on Riptide, and then the studio came out with Dying Light, and people really enjoyed that game. And you know, you had some of the bigger titles that came out and were solid. Tomb Raider, Bloodborne, The Witcher 3, Fallout 4. You had some divisive stuff like Metal Gear Solid 5. You know, that was a kind of divisive title for some people. You know, you've had some other games that seem to disappoint people. Like, I know a lot of people were disappointed in Star Wars, although I think that may sit in the divisive corner as well, as you have people who really do enjoy it, like me. But I think it's more of a, I guess, if you want to go by voiced opinions, I guess the disappointment category is where it's going to go, because those opinions were louder. Then again, you know, we always say the people who are happy are the least vocal. Those who aren't, you know, they're usually the loud minority, so to speak. So, but overall, there were a lot of solid games. You know, there were a lot of solid games. The disappointment comes with the territory, sadly. Not everything that comes out we're going to like. Like, I wasn't that overly pleased with Game of Thrones. Like I said on the Team Clean podcast, it was mostly because of the pacing of the release. I thought that they took too long to try to finish that game, and it kind of affected the storytelling and the gameplay. You know, had bugs, had issues, so it was like they kind of sullied the experience with the release schedule. I think moving forward, Telltale's going to have to tighten up on the release schedule, especially now that they're getting all of these games. We just saw them announce they're going to have a Michonne game for the Walking Dead series. They're going to do a Batman game. We know that they're working on like Marvel stuff. as well. They still got to finish out, I believe, the Minecraft game. I don't know if that's finished or not. People let me know. So moving forward, Telltale's going to definitely have to address the issue of the timely releases for the episodic games. I think a lot of times they kill the momentum the way that they release them. It worked with the earlier Walking Deads, Wolf Among Us, but I think those games, at least I remember those games come out a little faster, and that kind of leads me into the whole state of the community, because one of the things that came up after the podcast in my mind was how we remember things and how we totally view things because of this argument in chat over and I guess I shouldn't say argument, but I guess I say argument because it seemed more like an argument to me, but I'll get into that later. But the discussion about like how we talked about the state of these consoles, and I reflected on how I didn't feel like last gen started off as good as this gen, and that I didn't think they really had much. Big Fry mentioned some games in his discussion with someone about the early years in the chat that I totally forgot counted as second year games, mostly because I always forget that the PlayStation 3 came out a year after the Xbox 360, but I forgot that those games were in 2007, or maybe I forgot the release date of the Xbox 360 was in 2005. But there were games such as the first Uncharted. It was a good game, not the greatest of the series, but it was a good game. Assassin's Creed, again, good. Had many issues, trust me. I bought that game 2 years after it came out, and it still had technical problems. Ubisoft, get your life together. But it was still a good game. And you had Call of Duty 4, I believe he was saying. And there was a couple more games I can't think of right now. I already did a video about that, but flash forward to 2015, and the argument now is how things aren't starting off well for these consoles, which I find kind of interesting, because going back to Fry's argument about the good stuff that happened in 2007 for the second year of the previous generation, I think we're pretty much in the same state. And it goes back to my argument about, I think our mentalities have changed, not for the better. Definitely not for the better. I think, for the most part, they probably worsened. But then again, I can't say that I remember what was the discussion back in 2007, simply because a lot of what goes on in the community, a lot of things that are like known as far as how people feel, it's more reflection of the development of the internet and people's abilities to access social media and voice themselves. YouTube wasn't the end all be all for the gaming community back in 2007, but 2015 YouTube is a big part of the gaming community. A lot of people are expressing their opinions. A lot of people are gaining notoriety, fame. There's money in a lot of this. I think that's the one thing that's weird, is that you're not just a gamer anymore. You can become a quote-unquote voice, a leader. As you can establish yourself as someone who quote-unquote has some type of sway in the community, because the internet has blossomed to this place where everybody has an opportunity to speak their minds and to get noticed and to gain attention and notoriety. So I think that's kind of where you get this idea or this feeling that nobody really cares for what's going on in gaming, when I don't know, maybe it's me being older, but I don't think it's as bad as people think. I think, if anything, the community has kind of gotten worse, because let's be honest. One, there's money in negativity and drama. You know, if you don't think so, ask Donald Trump. You know, to like quickly give an example, but to elaborate on it, it's just, I don't know. I look at what came out this year. Dying Light was a game, like I said. The Witcher 3, Bloodborne, Fallout 4, Rise of the Tomb Raider, Until Dawn, Life is Strange, Rocket League, Rainbow Six has started to catch fire. People didn't think that was going to be good, but that's starting to get like kind of a hold on people. You know, this has been a pretty damn solid year. And even like I said, games is, even when you take a divisive game as a Metal Gear, it still got a lot of high praise, even though it caused a lot of debate within the community. So I'm wondering, have our attitudes become just totally more cynical? Or again, if it's just a question of, well, those who have a negative outlook are the ones who are talking, so therefore a lot of us who aren't necessarily talking about gaming like that, we're not doing YouTube or doing Twitch, doing podcasts and things like that, we're taking in their opinions and making them our own more than actually establishing our own opinions. Because I think the games that I named that were positive, I think a lot of you guys would agree, those were really solid titles. You know, will I say that we had a year full of mind-blowing experiences? No. But I've always been one to say that we seldom have those years, like how people look back at 2013 with Grand Theft Auto 5, the first Tomb Raider reboot, BioShock Infinite was another one that people brought up a lot. You know, they look at like quote unquote standout games like that. Even though I only named like 3 games, everybody feels like that year was just loaded. And then they say stuff like Splinter Cell, things like that. But again, it'll be like on the level of, hey, you got 5 or 6 really standout games. Just like I think this year, going through the list, I look at name the games that people were high on, and it's not like it's a lot. Remember, there's hundreds of games that come out. Tons of games come out. But even though these were really good experiences, people denounced 2015, which is crazy. Really, really crazy. At the same time, 2013 is looked at one of the greatest gaming years ever. And again, it's not like there were a quote unquote ton of games that they bring up when they talk about the greatness of 2013. So I don't know. Have we like just become too cynical? I personally think so, but then again, you know, it goes back to something I say all the time. At the end of the day, this is all subjective. You know, you like what you like, and that's the bottom line. And I'm sorry if 2015 didn't have anything that you enjoyed. I'm sorry that you didn't enjoy gaming as much in 2015. I personally, you know, I have never gotten the chance to play most of the games because of financial reasons, but what I've played for the most part has been very enjoyable. I don't think that we're in a bad place. I think we're just right on course, you know, as usual. Other things that people discuss, like I hear people saying how these consoles don't live up to the past. Again, for me, I look back and I think, what were these consoles like in year 1 and year 2? And I find that argument always hard because, again, going back to Big Fry and Crunk Girl's argument in the chat, it kind of like it's weird because it just reminded me like how differently we all can look back at the past. You know, some of us look at things a lot more positively and look at them as it just being better. Like we remember this was better. Kind of goes to a comment that Abel said in the podcast about how he doesn't remember much about the older Battlefronts, but he remembers them as being better. I think that's kind of how we kind of go as we get older, as we like reflect back on the past. We don't totally remember it the way it actually was, but we tend to remember it in a more positive way when it comes to things that we liked. You know, we never look back. It's harder for us to look back at things that we really liked or cared for in a negative light than it is to, I think, be totally objective and be able to say, yo, I thought this was the bomb back then, but now, yeah, it was just good for its time, and you know, it probably wouldn't work now. You know what I mean? It's things that I've heard people like Shuhei Yoshida said about how people want another SOCOM, and how Sony wants to kind of make sure that they make a game that people really want if they're going to do this, because we all think like, you know, the older version was the best, but we may not want to play that game again in under modern conditions, because what worked back then may not work now. You know what I mean? It's just all interesting how we progress in our mind state things, and that's what I found fascinating about that discussion that Fry and them had. And that's what I find fascinating about the community. It's just that the outlooks, the viewpoints, the way that we reflect on things, it's just very interesting. I do really believe that we have way too much negativity, and that we aren't willing to give the benefit of doubt like we used to. Like, I understand if you really don't care for things like DLC, microtransactions, yeah, I totally agree. Like, I don't care for free to play, so I choose not to indulge in it. At the same time, I also choose not to indulge on continually, I guess, yelling at the top of my lungs about it, because at the end of the day, if it's something that I really don't care for, I refuse to, one, indulge in it, two, to constantly acknowledge it. Because I feel like that's another thing that we have a problem with, is we don't seem to understand that making the argument, making our point is always healthy. You know, to voice, it's okay to voice your opinion as long as you're not being disrespectful, and you don't dismiss the fact that your opinion is your opinion and that other people may feel another way. I think that's where we get lost in these conversations about games too, is that nobody wants to respect other people's opinions. Because again, going back to the whole internet era, age and whatnot, and I realize this video is way over 10 minutes and I apologize, but it's like we're in a time now where people like to make, that's why I guess I call it arguments more than discussions, because I feel like people want to argue why they're right rather than discuss why they feel a certain way, if that makes sense. It's more about my way, or how I remember things, or how I feel about things being the way that everybody should feel, rather than this is what I think, this is how I feel, but I understand if you don't feel that way. You know what I mean? It's just interesting, and I guess that'll bleed over into I guess my non-gaming 2015 in review, just for life in general. But I really feel like that's how things are in life today, and especially in gaming. I think it's kind of bad, because it's leading us down a road where we're gonna like more and more stop respecting everybody's perspective, and that's the last thing I want to see. Because when it comes to gaming, when you start disrespecting people's perspectives, I start to see people want to harass other people for liking certain games. You know, like I get a lot of shit for liking Destiny. I shouldn't, because at the end of the day, if you don't like the game, why should you care if I like the game? What is your, you know, coming at me going to do to benefit you, to change my opinion? It's like, are you trying to force me to feel the way you feel? And you know, and that's the thing. You can't do that because I don't feel the way you feel, you know, and it's disrespectful. You know, you don't need to do that. It's okay. You know, there are games out there that you should like and that you should care about, and you shouldn't really concern yourself with stuff that you don't care about. And I guess that's where I just like, I get lost with the whole like discussion area of gaming. I feel like I can't have really good discussions anymore with people about gaming. You know, I feel like everybody wants to make the arguments of how they feel is the right way, rather than let's talk about how we can like improve certain things, or what it is about gaming that we like and we don't like. I think that's why a lot of companies don't move as fast anymore when people have complaints. I think in some areas they do, but I think in a lot of ways we don't get the improvements we want, because we are constantly pounding at people with our opinion and with our displeasure in like an angry, disrespectful tone, and it starts to become white noise. I think, you know, I think that's why a lot of times gaming companies dismiss, especially since like with the DLC thing, like if you're still buying that stuff, you're just making noise for no reason, you know what I mean? But I could go on for probably another 15-20 minutes, so I'm gonna cut myself off of that. Bottom line is I think we're pretty much par for the course. I just think that we have a more vocal discussion, and I think that vocal discussion has kind of skewed things in a way, but then again, it could be that that discussion is right, and if it's so, perhaps we need to go back and really think about the past and realize that things are probably more the same in the past than it is now, you know, than we think it is, and that we may have more issues with the past than we think. It's again, it's just all a subjective thing. I hope like a lot of you have enjoyed yourself with what you like to play. For those of you who didn't get what you didn't like to play, I'm sorry. I wish that in a perfect world everybody gets something they like, but I also understand the reality of the situation is that not every game is made for me, and I think other people need to realize that as well. You know, they don't just do these games to cater to one particular person, one particular crowd, one particular way of thought, you know. And it's all entertainment at the end of the day, and you're not gonna like every piece of entertainment. But I don't know. I've been told by Prodigy that I try to look at things rationally, and that's probably my problem. I try to be as rational and fair-minded, which I hate to say that, but sometimes I feel like that's the way it is when it comes to things. Like, I don't know. But again, that's all subjective too. So it's all opinion. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video. As always, hit me up. Let me know what you think. And I'll holler at you later. This your boy Blak Magus, and I'm out. Deuces.